Steph and I are like, we're going to go out for dinner tonight.
Nice.
It's gonna be on. I mean, we're going to Morton's because
Ooh,
I'm counting on some massive donations. The YouTube numbers for this pod. I mean, hopefully it's.
Dude, you know what, man? That Pornhub money that's coming in is like, I'm not nervous about Ollie going to school anymore.
I cannot. They've asked for 2 more years on our contract. I mean, can you imagine that they want to put more pods on there? This is fucking phenomenal. And the funniest thing is at the pub during the game. I mean, I'm like looking around at everybody at the pub, and there's so many like cute little newbie Gooners are getting bent out of shape about the loss. But dude, it doesn't matter whether we win or lose. I get to go home and you and I could put up content and basically pay for my entire weekend. So
seriously, like we're just the amount of money that we make off of this, Mike, is just absurd. And it's these idiots who just keep listening to us over and over again. And the fact that we keep losing, I mean, it's just.
There's like 20 or 30 people at the pub that I see every week, and I act like I like them, but they're living and dying with the club. I don't know. I mean, I've been over there 6 times in the last couple of years since we started the pod. I've never seen those people outside the Emirates. Never seen them taking video of themselves inside. So I mean, they can, losers, whatever. As far as I'm concerned, ka-ching.
Ka-ching, ka-ching.
Yeah. Oh fuck, dude. Did we start at this thing? Shit. All right. Hold on. I pressed start by accident.
Oh, no. Was that all on camera?
I think it might have been, dude.
Was that all on camera, Mike?
Shit.
That's embarrassing.
We gotta delete this.
Oh, what a bunch of assholes.
Yeah. Hi, guys.
Hey.
It's about the only funny thing that's happened in the last 48 hours, I think. But anyway, well, first of all, you got to start the pod off the normal way. Now that we're really starting the formal podcast.
Welcome to the Gooners podcast. What is that picture in the background?
I told you that's my boy right there. I'm in an Andy sandwich right now. You've heard of Andy Samberg. This is an Andy sandwich.
Yeah. How are you, Mike?
I am all right. I have been very mad, very frustrated. Unlike some people, within a few minutes of the game ending, I was not laughing. I didn't think there was very much funny about it. I stormed out of the pub. I drove home, sat in traffic, nearly drove into about 18 people. Any blue cars I drove into, but it's hard to stay mad for that long. I know that I speak just for myself because I know a lot of people out there that are getting madder with every day, and I certainly don't blame them. But if you want to not be literally shitting blood into the toilet all weekend, you have to just eventually just get back to your life, and that's what I have to do. So if I don't seem that mad right now, trust me, I was.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the Canton camp where he had said, hey, I need time to digest. I had the fortunate event of watching the match with Joey, and before the game even started, I was just thinking to myself, this Arsenal team could have come out and smashed it 2 or 3-0, or we could lose 4-1. And I kind of just assumed it, Mike. And it was a weird one for me because I think it makes me seem less of a fan. But I literally went through the lead up to
less of a fan because no one speaks in those terms.
Yeah. I went through the build up. Not excited. There weren't the butterflies. It wasn't the normal, hey, I'm really excited about us being in the European final. Not like the Champions League where I lost sleep for days on end. I just knew the outcome was going to happen. I did not see us winning this match whatsoever.
And see, it blindsided me because my strategy was, just block up my entire week with work, just be busy so I don't have a lot of time to sit on it and stew on it. But ultimately, as I told Ryan, hey Ryan, in when I did his podcast on Tuesday, I was confident. I just didn't want to spend too much time dwelling on my confidence because then it hurts even more. But I did not think that was going to happen. And me, I'm normally the most pessimistic person just so that I can build in that expectation. But I thought we were going to rise to the cause, and it did not happen.
Kerry McCollum, no, not muted, career suicide.
Career suicide would be a step up for us at this point.
Yeah, in hindsight, when you I wonder, and we'll get to this a little later. I just wonder if the idea of Champions League football wasn't on the line, would it have been as big of a loss? Would we still be feeling it? Would we be upset? I do want to take one moment, Mike, and just say this. The video that came out from that platform, a good friend of ours is on there, Kenny.
Yeah.
I don't ever recall hearing his voice on there. I've and you have both had the pleasure of being in a pub with Kenny, going to a match with Kenny, being in the pub after the match with Kenny. We've been in groups with Kenny. The guy bleeds Arsenal through and through, and I don't think for a second he was excited about making money off of us losing a match. And I genuinely feel that way. We both know Lee. We both have had our issues with Lee. I can't speak for him. I'm speaking for Kenny, just Kenny. And it sucks that happened and he was involved in that. You are the company you keep. But at the end of the day, he'll get over it. People will forget about it. But it just – the whole situation with that, and maybe we'll get onto it later, and the whole Robbie follow-up was just bullshit.
Yeah, it's not what any of us needed, and it certainly kind of exposed certain people. But I'm glad that you brought that up because Kenny has been getting a lot of abuse by this, and I know from his personality that it's hurting him. And he was there, but he wasn't part of that conversation, and he would never be laughing at something like that. So it is unfortunate, and I'm glad that you came out like that because for people that know Kenny, they know he is as solid as it comes. And I mean, like literally, you can't even you push him, and he doesn't move anywhere.
But what's funny though is that and you and I never did this to make money, or we don't,
because we suck at it if we do.
We don't. But I've said this on more than one occasion to you personally. Like the one bit of feedback we ever got that I've taken to heart was from Danny the GFP, who said, when you start doing this for money, your outlook on the team or something like it changes. And we've never been that way, and we'll continue to be that way. And if people listen and we make money on it, great. It pays for our hosting fees, but we ain't going Sizzler because of this, and I don't think that we ever wanted to get to that point. But we are here to talk about the game.
Yeah.
And so we're going to quickly do that, and we have a bunch of user questions. So lineup. Lots of chatter regarding if Czech should have started in goal. Now the 90 minutes is over. I don't think Leno does better to save any of those goals. I think Czech was the okay decision. I think that he played very well. He kept us in the match at certain points. There's, questions of could Leno have gotten to Giroud's header quicker? Who knows? But at the end of the day, it wasn't a 1-0 match. You could see the tear in his eye that, was that more because his career was over, or was it because we lost the match? Who knows? But I don't think that had the big impact that most people thought it would.
No, I mean, on the pitch, starting Czech was not particularly impactful. And frankly, in the first half, he was outstanding. He had some chances that he had to lay out for, and he did. The problem is I'm not going to go and blame him for losing the game. I'm not going to even blame him for any of the goals specifically. He's never going to save a penalty unless I'm physically in the Emirates to watch it against Watford. The fourth goal, I mean, there's nothing he could have done about that. I mean, what I'm thankful for, just for sanity's sake, is that he didn't do anything stupid like fumble with the ball at his feet in the first half, because we passed it back to him like 294 times.
Yeah.
Flap at the ball and miss and lead to a goal. I mean, because if he did that, then we'd be sitting here hearing about conspiracy theories and obnoxious bullshit that's even worse than what we're dealing with right now. So I still don't think he should have played because, the subconscious, the message, everything. But, I don't think, as it turned out, that he cost us the game. We had nothing to gain from playing him and everything to lose.
Yep.
And ultimately, it just ended up neutral. Respectfulness and consistency are nice qualities to have if you're a fucking insurance agent. But, we have no cutthroat nature from the top on down, and that is what leads to a decision like Petr Cech playing in that game.
Yeah. As the Arsenal podcast wrote, I don't think Leno would have done better. I think Leno would have done better for the first goal, but we didn't help Czech Wednesday was the outfield player, balls watching, basically not defending. And we'll get into all that. But yeah, I mean, there wasn't a moment in the game where you thought, oh, fuck, Czech's fucked this up for us. So, we started off well. Let's jump to that penalty decision, Mike. I don't personally subscribe to the idea that contact in the box is a penalty. I think a while ago we had a huge debate on this pod with Bellerin kicking, I forget who in the foot. I think it was someone on Liverpool and them going down. But anyway, I don't think Kepa impeded him scoring a goal. So I don't think it personally was a penalty. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm actually happy to hear you say that in the sense that I'm the only person in our pub that I talked to. Maybe Rob agreed with me. I'm not sure, but the only person in the pub who was saying the same thing. I mean, I try not to be too impartial when it comes to stuff like that because, when the shoe's on the other foot, I would have been absolutely livid if they called that a penalty against us. If the teams were switched, because Lacazette, I think he goes down a little too easily. Whether he was off balance or not would contribute to that. But given the amount of pressure that was put on him physically by Kepa from an actual touching perspective, he could have probably stayed up, and he kind of went down looking for the call, I think. And
plus, I don't think VAR overturned it because I think the ball's too far away from him.
I don't think it would have run out of bounds. I don't think it was an obvious ability for him to just finish it had he been able to not been impeded. And I don't really think he was that impeded. I think you never would have seen that called a foul correctly on the regular pitch, on the rest of the pitch. It would have just, because there can be contact. And again, isn't it supposed to be if it's a foul anywhere on the pitch, it's a foul in the penalty box? Well, the same is true in reverse. So, I was okay with not getting the call there. You know what I wasn't okay with? Sucking ass completely for the rest of the game after that. That I wasn't cool with.
Yeah, I mean, the first 30 minutes we were in control, which I want to say lightly, as we didn't really attack their goal with gusto. I mean, I don't think we challenged Kepa outside of one save. I mean, Xhaka's shot, which I think Kepa had covered, but it was just bland. Yeah, it was just bland football. I mean, we never got rhythm. Our play out wide started off wonderfully with Kolasinac and Maitland-Niles making great runs. The crosses were fucking terrible. But we were attacking, and then Chelsea kind of figured it out. They saw that what we were doing, and they kind of last 10 minutes got into a rhythm. And halftime, I think, came for us at the perfect time because it didn't allow Chelsea to pepper the goal very much. But they started off halftime as other teams have done to us many, many a time this season. And, it wasn't good.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like we were watching the same game this time. It's funny how that happens. But I may be the only Gooner who rates Kolasinac as a crosser of the ball. It's really not because he's that good at crossing the ball. It's because he gets into such dangerous positions that his margin of error for crossing is improved because – defense is stretching to try to cover the different options that he can do. So, but he was awful on Wednesday.
Yeah.
I mean, he was constantly a second too late, a touch too many. He got the angles of the cutbacks wrong. Mainsley, had a few opportunities that he left too close to the keeper instead of cutting it back. I mean, it just wasn't on. And it wasn't that we weren't getting into dangerous positions in the first half. We just, we weren't connecting the dots and playing the triangle game the way that we're capable of. And if I seem distracted, it's because Becca just called us daddies. So this is going on Pornhub.
Let's talk about Becca's future husband, Olivier.
Yeah, it's a good time for her to come in.
A good segue. Halftime couldn't come soon enough for us, but it looked like Chelsea left the locker rooms at halftime with kind of an idea and a boost of what to do. They took momentum. They got a very early goal with Giroud, who's we've seen score that type of goal 100 times for us. I don't know how many goals he scored, so clearly it wasn't 100, but we've seen him do that quite a lot. For me, Mike, Koscielny should know that he's the type of player who's capable of doing that because he plays with him for two teams, both with Arsenal and France. But I thought Koscielny looked to have pulled his boot out of the tackle, and honestly, he should have just smashed his fucking face to have made sure that ball did not get put on target. Because at the end of the day, Giroud lowers his head to play the ball, and
he didn't do it. It literally was the end of the day. It was like midnight in
Baku. There's no reason to pull out of that challenge. There is absolutely no reason to put out of that challenge, and he should have fucking cleared that ball and his face out of the stadium. And it looked to me like he pulled back.
I I haven't watched it a bunch of times. I don't make a habit out of going back and watching the game and looking at YouTube highlights when it's a soul-crushing loss. So, I mean, I obviously remember the goal. I don't know whether Koscielny was there in time to do that or whether he was just arriving a second too late to do that. But, why he doesn't kick his face off is because 10,000 women, including Becca, though she's starting to have her doubts, would have stormed the pitch with knives and baguettes and shit and started beating him over the head. Because if Giroud's face comes off, there's no more masturbating properly during a football match. I mean, you just can't do it anymore. So I don't think anyone on the pitch, save for maybe Liechtenstein, who isn't going to be our team this time tomorrow, has the balls to challenge somebody's head like that. I mean, we're just too nice. And so I never thought that was going to be happening. Postscript to all that.
I could see Xhaka kicking someone's face off if it's necessary.
Yeah, I mean, what you say about Giroud, though, just last word on Giroud, and then I hope we never have to talk about this guy again. You mentioned that he scores some worldies like this. I mean, he's limited as a player in many respects, but not when it comes to finishing, especially with his head. That particular type of goal, which like you said, we've seen him score it a million times. How many strikers total in world football today you think score that goal? I can think of maybe 2 or 3 that I think could regularly put that in the net the way that he did.
Yeah, there's not many, Mike. It's a good question. I think that
Lewandowski could do it. Ibra probably could still do it even at his age.
You see Aguero sneaking goals like that. It's so fucking hard. I mean, it's a quality goal. You can't take that away from him. But I think it can be avoided by just smashing his fucking face in.
Well, that's the difference between you and me. You like to decapitate. I like to, do other things that end in 8.
Yeah, well, after that video on the bus, he can fucking burn in hell. So
I don't know what people are expecting him to do. I mean, it was classless, but look, if you expect him to have class in that situation and some sort of loyalty to Arsenal still at this point, then you need to
but as Becca said, you should. I get that he was excited. Who wouldn't be? But to thank Arsenal sarcastically after they fucking built you as a player, as they put you on
trying to ingratiate himself to his teammates that are his teammates now, not his teammates from 2 years ago and orders from 2 years ago.
I totally get the sentiment of we sold him so we could get Aubameyang. I get that. He could be mad about that. But you had people singing your fucking name a few months before that at the Emirates. Show a little bit of class and respect, you fucking ass fuck of a French fuck. Anyway.
Tell us how you really feel.
Sorry, Mike, if you're Hernandez, if you're in the car with your daughter. So after Chelsea scored, I just didn't see us getting back into the game.
I see him pulling over to the side, like slamming his radio. I gotta crash the car to make the radio stop here.
He's just jamming the CD into the
Daddy.
Just play the CD.
Mommy, Daddy said something in the car. He was listening to ass fuck ass something.
They were saying something about Pornhub and steaks. I don't know, Daddy.
What does quid mean?
So I didn't see us getting back into the game after they scored. I don't know why. Their second goal came from a good passage of play where they caught us. Foul or not, we got to do better.
Foul.
I mean, look, Mike, Maitland-Niles puts in a stupid rash challenge for the penalty. With checking goal, why even bother? Just give them the goal. But their fourth, again, we were shit. I mean, quick shout-out to Iwobi for the finish on another day that steals the headlines around the globe. But just overall, we collapsed, and we weren't ever in the match after halftime. And it was a dire performance.
It was. And I mean, at the time, I was absolutely steaming about that non-foul call. When they took, I mean, I don't even remember who it was on, but
there was one on Maitland-Niles, I think, for the fourth goal, and I want to say the second was maybe.
I'm talking.
Xhaka.
I'm talking. Chelsea fouled us at midfield.
Yeah,
won the ball back and directly went down, and I think won the cut.
Yeah.
And, every single replay they showed after that goal was of the goal itself and not what started the run. So I didn't even get a chance to see it. And again, I don't go back and watch soul-crushing moments of soul-crushing losses. So, but it's hard to cry over that one thing when we just capitulated from that point on the way we did overall. And Iwobi's goal, I mean, that was shocking because it looked like he actually meant to do that.
Well, he usually puts those at the corner flag, and so to hit it through the laces. But Iwobi scores this beautiful goal, and there's not a momentum tight because you're still down 3-1. But how many times, Mike, this season? And if you answer more than once, which you're going to, is the wrong answer. But how many times this season have we scored a goal to help with momentum, and then within 30 seconds we're pulling the ball out of our net because we are not paying attention and we're allowing them to score? Because that's essentially what happened.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's they call that not good. Do something like that is the official football term. But I learned that when I was over in England. But not good at all. And Iwobi it was lucky that he scored because it gave all the Iwobi should have started instead of Ozil people all the ammunition they needed. And in hindsight on the day, I'm not saying I disagree with them on that. I'm just the Iwobi the narrative just keeps going.
Shut the fuck up. 3-1, 3-12 Gooner. I know this is an Arsenal pod, but breaking news, Sarri is out at Chelsea, and it looks like he's the next Juve manager. I really was hoping that Pochettino would be.
I thought you were yelling at 3-12 Gooner. I'm like, no, dude's cool, man.
Yeah.
So he's officially out. Is that true?
Well, that's what 312 is saying, and you're saying he's cool. 80 unread notifications and Twitter? Jesus Christ. All right, so, Mike, let me go back to where we were lost. All right, so dust is settled. Game's over. We now need to put ourselves in one of these camps. Are you Unai in or out? Because
what before the season, I said give him 2 or 3 years, and maybe 4 to 6 transfer windows. And what I expected going into the year, and at some point I'll go back and see whether I'm just talking out my ass now or whether I'm actually remembering this correctly. But I pretty much expected to hold steady from last season, and not regress. And I would have been thrilled with top 4 or a Europa League title to get us back in the Champions League. And frankly, it's a sucker punch right now that we don't have that. But, I'm going to stick to what I said before, because I think if we looked at the season like we follow a stock, it went up and up and up at the beginning. Well, it was down at the beginning, then it went way up, then it just went down. It jumped all around. It did the hokey pokey. Ultimately, though, I feel like the stock ended up a few percent on the year compared to the year before, in the sense that, we were one spot higher in the table and we went one stage further in the Europa League. And are we retiring on that stock and laughing all the way to the bank like some people? No. But in a year of transition, year of change, year of learning new styles, new management, just having changes around the Emirates and Colney all over the place, we lost nothing, on paper, and gained a little bit. So had we been 10th, and we've talked about this, if we were in 10th at the table at Christmas, and then we just had like a torrid run, say like 22 games without a loss or something towards the end of the season, and finished 1 point out of the top 4, we'd say, it was a normal transition year, and Emery finally showed his system was gradually catching on, and we'd be fine with it. The concerning thing is that the more the season went on, the less we saw of Emery's influence on the players. So here's where I fall. This summer, I look at ownership, I look at the board, whoever those people are, like you tweeted out today. I'm not sure we have one anymore. Sir Chips is I don't really think has a job anymore. So I look to them and to Emery for insisting that we show some ambition, that we use the money that we all know that we have the ability to spend if we choose to, unlike in the last transfer window. It's a lot more than 40 million to make the obvious improvements that we need. And more than that, I look to see who we're ruthlessly shipping out. More to me about who we ship out than who we bring in at this point, although you can't do one without the other, obviously. So, but it's not even just to clear out space to bring new people in on the wage rolls. It's to clear out this loser mentality that we still clearly have in the dressing room. And then from August on, once the first ball is kicked, I look at Emery right smack dab in the eyes and his ability to get whatever players are still there to die for him, to play above their natural levels for him, like I hate to say it, like Klopp and Pochettino's players do. And if we don't see that by May, if we're not like easily and squarely into Champions League for the following season, then I'm ready to say bye-bye to Emery, because I think it'll be on him at that point that this team still hasn't rolled over into a more winning mentality. What do you think?
I'll say it until I'm blue in the face. I'll judge him once his team is in place. I mean, lots has been said about him not knowing his style or system. I don't think we'll know that until he can fill the puzzle with his pieces. But just how long will he have? Because we have a manager who's coming in with a very limited budget, and if we allow him to spend 40 to 80 million pounds on players who fit his system, and then after a year we decide he's not the guy, and then we bring in someone else, then we're back in that revolvement of, well, we got to give this manager now time. So I don't know if we can bring in a manager of his level, above his level. Allegri's not going to come to Arsenal with a 40 million pound budget. I mean, it just
we don't have. I know what you mean, but I'm still.
But let's not get into the semantic. Let's just assume, Mike, it's 40 million, right? I mean, all the news outlets are saying it. So if you're a top manager, until you hear from Stan or Josh Kroenke themselves that that this is the budget, you're going off of what speculation and media is saying. You also don't know the internals of the club if you're a manager looking on the outside, who you could sell, whatever. So I think Emery is the right person for the job right now. I'll judge him at the end of the summer. I want to see what we do in the transfer window, what we're able to do in the transfer window. But again, if we can invest a ton of money and he doesn't get the opportunity to build the team the way he wants it this summer, is it fair to judge him? I don't know. I will say this. I'm really questioning my love for Unai based off of how we ended the season, knowing we only needed to get a minimum of 3 points from 9. It's just that's not good enough. And everyone is beating his quotes of the culture, well, I don't feel like I'm pressured. That's so taken out of context. The pressure at PSG, Mike, was you need to win the Champions League this season. That's the pressure at PSG when you're the manager. So you're every day driving and trying to meet that expectation. At Arsenal, he's not saying that there isn't pressure. He's saying it's a different pressure. He's been given the opportunity to lay the foundation and build upon it. So as we saw in the message and the email that came out, which, gets leaked immediately after it comes out. But hey, they saw this season as a wash. So anything that he did this season, whether it be Champions League football or getting to Europa League final, I think for the board and for the ownership, that is all positive to them. It's just seeing his ability. So they gave him a wash. Now it's what he's going to do to build on that foundation. And we're in that weird, do we rely on our youth for a while and rebuild? Like it's bizarre, man. It's a weird situation to be in as an Arsenal supporter.
Yeah, I mean, I've spent much of the last 5, and we are somewhat delving into this topic a little bit, but I've spent somewhat of the last 5 months since the we don't have enough money to do anything other than loan conversation really struck up the whole spending and wage limits and financial fair play and all that discussion. I've obviously gotten into it a lot and frankly into it a bit today with some people I really like, but we're complaining about, the Rams stadium again, which is just a non-issue. But what I want to say though is that I am willing to defend the spending that we've done and the reasons why we can't spend more. I've been willing to differentiate that, people are wrong when they say, Emery should spend millions of his own dollars on players, but Kroenke, should invest his own money in the team. I mean, I will never stop if I have the time and inclination trying to correct people on that because it's just flat wrong. It's not how it works. However, I do know, because I've done a lot of research about how it works, that we have a tremendous amount, even without Champions League, even without selling players for transfer fees, like like the Mustafis of the world and like like guys like that. Even without doing that, just the contracts falling off the books, plus the new revenues from commercial deals, we could spend a lot of money this summer, not just $40 million.
I just want to address
that we will, and that's
No.
going to be what I'm going to be watching, because if we cry poor throughout the entire summer and our actions by early August, when the window closes, end up showing that we either had this self-imposed $40 million budget or less, or constantly took the cheaper option on a player, I will speak out against that, because look, we have the money now. If we don't spend it and we still cry poor and we still try to pinch pennies, then we have absolutely no excuse.
So, no, I completely agree. And Archie in the chat saying Kroenke out, he wasn't even at the final.
He's not our Josh is.
Stan Kroenke is not running Arsenal Football Club. Josh Kroenke is running Arsenal Football Club. Josh Kroenke was tasked to take over this team, and everyone wanted Arsene fired. Josh flew over, saw the issues, took care of it. Josh was at the final. Josh is running this team. Stan Kroenke does not give a shit about this team. Stan Kroenke cares about the LA Rams. If you think for a second that Josh Kroenke does not want Arsenal to win, you don't know the Kroenke family. He wants it. Just Google him and his interviews regarding the Nuggets, regarding the Avalanche, as well as Arsenal, because a lot of that is brought up in those articles. He gets 100% of the decision-making process. Stan does not give a shit. So at the end of the day, you know what? You can blame Stan all you want. He's not the guy to blame. If you're going to point fingers, you got to point it at Josh. And he is there. And I've heard, Mike, that he is living in London this summer. So whatever that means, I don't know. But I'm assuming it's because of Arsenal. So, yeah. There's just
I'm assuming it's because he can get kebabs much easier than in Denver. But
yeah.
And they're much better tasting. But yeah, I mean, that is true. And he's not a football man, though. He's an organizational man. And so I guess we'll see whether he's any good.
And again, and Archie, trust me, man, I support not one Stan Kroenke team. I support 4. So don't get me wrong. Like, it sucks.
You didn't pick them based on the fact that he was coaching.
Oh no. I've been. You know how long I've been an Arsenal supporter, and it sucks that he came in, and I just happened to live in Denver. But I will say this: even if Stan Kroenke came in and said, "Here's 200 million pounds for you to buy as many fucking players as you want," we cannot do that. That's not how it works. He can clear the debts. He can't just go to Unai and the board and go,
"We don't have debts."
Well, and that's the whole thing. He can't come in and go, "Here's 200 million, buy it, spend all the money that you want on all the players." At the end of the day, he gave Arsene and Ivan the money to invest in the players they thought, and they fucked up.
Yeah,
there's a lot of people at fault, and just to go, "Hey, Kroenke out, he sucks. He's the one. He's ruining the club." That's not how it works. It's deeper than that.
Yeah. You know what would help, though, is if someone from, like, I don't know, some suburb of London, was able to give 200 quid to buy a new player, and and put it towards that. That is within financial fair play. So,
because Alonso, Josh putting money into Arsenal,
you can't put.
He can't put money into that. You can't.
It's like putting more. It's trying to stuff more coins into a full piggy bank when there's some rule that you can't spend money out of the piggy bank anymore than you already have.
And Archie, I'm not being disrespectful, dude. I know your frustration. Trust me, Mike's there too. There's more that comes to it, and don't get me wrong, man. We want you to continue listening. We're not being dicks. It's just it's so frustrating that we're in this scenario and that we have to wait years to get certain players out of contract. It's absolutely absurd. We're paying Ozil and Mkhitaryan 500,000 pounds a week when they're both dog shit players. But that's what the old regime did. And at the end of the day, that's what we need to deal with. And I appreciate all of you in the chat not listening to these two idiots. that are Chelsea supporters, guys, get a life. Just go somewhere else.
I could kick you guys out of the chat, but I'm not going to. You guys could just keep. Yeah, you can keep doing that. It's fine.
And we do make over 100 million a season, and you say I expect to be spent minimum every season. Mike, you're better with money than I am.
Our wage bill is 225 million this season. The wage bill is going to go up next season, hopefully, because that's where we have the money to spend it. I mean, are we profitable? Depends on the Euro. I mean, we're starting to not be because of the Europa League and the fact that we haven't been selling players lately. We've just been letting them leave. So are we profitable? No, we're actually not profitable right now, depending on, how you look at it. But when we were profitable and when we were, making tons of money on and not paying out as much in expenses, we spent it, and we spent it poorly. We spent it on $90 million over the contract for Mesut Ozil. We wasted the opportunity to recoup some of our investment in Aaron Ramsey and Jack Wilshere. And I mean, I couldn't agree more. The people that if you're going to blame Kroenke, blame him for two things. Blame him for whatever you want, but in my opinion, blame him for the fact that he just couldn't give two shits about Arsenal, and he's not an invested owner. But someone pointed out, it might even have been you, Andy. When's the last time Tottenham's owner made himself present? I mean, the chairman, Daniel Levy, is a very well-known figure, but I know he doesn't.
Here's the thing, though, Mike. They've got a fancy stadium. They've got a good coach, and they're in the Champions League final, and they've been progressing year after year. Right. If we were in that similar circumstance, people would love Kroenke. They wouldn't care if he wasn't at the matches. So I totally
an absentee owner isn't necessarily a bad thing. Unfortunately, no. If you feel like someone's not minding the shop and doesn't have the passion, for a club that has 100+ years of history, was previously owned by people from North London who bled and grew up around the club. That's the problem with
Mike. Mike Ashley shows up to every Newcastle match.
Yeah, he's not very loved.
There's that, but
he was about to be pretty loved, though.
So one thing that the Kroenkes are doing is they're hiring a technical director, where we're seeing Edu come in once his stint with Brazil is up. It's an interesting one, the technical director, Mike, because you want someone in the role who knows football, who has a football mind. I loved Edu when he played for Arsenal. He was just one of those players. He's kind of like the Torreira, right? You can rely on him. He wears his heart on his sleeve. He got emotional in games. He was part of the Invincibles. So bringing him in, I think he's coming in to first instill that culture of, here's what Arsenal used to be. We have to maintain that. Even when we're going through this chameleon phase of having a manager who changes tactics often, I think he's going to come in and put kind of that fire on Unai to say, here's what we need. Very similar to check at Chelsea, right? If he goes in as their technical director, looks like a lot of teams are hiring players who have passion for the club, who are excited to be there and kind of know the history of the club as well. I'm hoping that our links to these South American football players are based off of his ability to look at that world of football and go, here, this is where I think. But I'm hoping, Mike, that Edu goes out and brings in other players. So we've got Lundberg at the club. Why not go out? Like, Boldy needs to go. The guy's a fucking useless sack of shit.
I mean, that's the rumors that Lundberg is going to replace Boldy in his position.
Yeah, but, we look at certain people like Adams and other football players who have their coaching badges and bring them back in, even if it's on a consultant basis. But I'm excited about his appointment. I think it's better to get football-minded people in and around the executive boardroom.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have. I've blown my whole wad on technical director opinions when the Monchi situation ended, and then the Overmars. Who was it that? I mean, it's just been one after another. If it's Edu, great. If it's not Edu, great. But if it is him, I think we're going to be bringing like 843 scouts to the Copa America, in Brazil in a couple of weeks, because it seems like we are headed towards South America for players. And certainly Lucas Torreira, who is South American but was playing in Italy, you can find gems there, but I don't know that that's necessarily the best strategy. So we'll see. Shout out to the chat, by the way. We're gonna shout out to all but two people in there. We got 312 Gooner, we got Archie, Matt Walker, Alonzo Spencer. So I've seen Becca in there, Ryan Fletcher, Mr. Arsenal Podcast, Matt Saad Dane, Syed, Andy Rhodes. I see is in the chat. Well done there. Yeah, he is sexy AF. And then we got a couple Pratts who are. One of whom seems to only know two numbers, and they're both.
Let's embrace them. I mean, Pete and Bob have likely been Chelsea fans since 2000 and maybe.
I'm gonna go with 4. I'm gonna go 2004.
No, I'm not even gonna go that long. I'm gonna go probably 2011. I bet they don't even know who Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank is. I'm sure they don't even know that Ranieri was their manager at some point. So if you're an Arsenal supporter and you're in the group, thank you, Matt. Appreciate it. If you're in the group, just ignore those two fucking cunts.
Or just give it back to him. I'm not going to censor.
Or you can give it back to him, but Bob Money is a Chelsea supporter and a San Francisco 49ers supporter. What two fucking franchises are more bullshit than those two? Yeah. Go fuck yourself.
Surprised he's not a New England supporter, to be honest.
He probably is. I'm sure he's the type of guy who
that's his AFC team.
Yeah, he can whip off a shirt and it'll be a Man City shirt. You want to go use the question?
Chelsea was a small second division team in Fulham when I lived over there, so it's impressive how far they've come. I'm very proud of you guys.
Kerry, who's your NFL team? I know that you're down in Bama country. Do you support the NFL or have a team?
And now we're just going to wait for the – you're talking to people who can't talk back.
Yeah, but you can type. Get your fingers moving.
By the way, the fact that there's 2 Chelsea people in the chat and only one of them could figure out how to give us a thumbs down is even funnier than anything else. I would take it as a badge of honor to have 2 thumbs down on this pod. What is insulting is we only got 7 thumbs up, and there's been about 20-25 people that have – been coming through here already. So anyway, let's do it. And if you can give us a thumbs up, and I'll appreciate it. And and then we'll just ask for donations. If you can figure out how to give us a donation, then by all means, go ahead. I just love that. Donations, bro. Donations. Oh, he doesn't have a Scooby. All right. Anyway. User questions. We got a bunch of them, and they're really good today. So we're going to spend the rest of the time answering them. So you go first.
Dro the Gooner, if you were Raul and it's A1.
Becca's a Niners fan.
Yeah.
She's all mine now. You don't get her anymore.
I just text my really good friend who is a Chelsea supporter, like, hey, sorry, left ? He just wrote back, what a fucking day. So anyway, if you were Raul and it's day one of the transfer market, what's your move, Mike?
Well, my first thing is I released a YouTube video with me and Vinay Venkataraman saying a bunch of bullshit that means absolutely nothing until we actually see some action. That's what I did. I mean, it is currently like day 7 of the transfer market, isn't it? Or does it truly start on June 1st? I don't know, but I don't know. I mean, we'll see. I know you might be asking for players and what do you do, but I mean, if it's day 1 and you're just deciding what your move is at this point, then I think we're behind the 8 ball already. And I fear that may be what's happening, even though the news I'm hearing is that we've got our targets all lined up and just waiting to see whether that Champions League money's coming in. And, all that Champions League money seems to be going to Bob money right now. So we have to adjust our strategy. Do you have an idea of what he should be doing?
I agree with you. I think they know what they need to do. I think day 1 of the transfer window obviously came way before Baku, so we were just waiting to see, where the money fell. To the point of the 40 million, Mike, a guy that you dislike had brought up a good point. When you can leak to the media, you only have 40 million and you're going out and bidding on players, it doesn't allow them to increase the value, right? You never hear how much City has or United have. So if Arsenal were to come out and go, we have 90 million, why would they do that? It doesn't make sense, because then you go to Valencia and go, hey, we want this player. They go, well, we know you have 90 million. So that 20 million is now 30, right? So the numbers aside, it's silly, but they should know what
A
they're
guy
doing.
I don't like. I love just about everybody.
They should know what they're doing and who they're going after, and I'm sure a couple of them have taken a 1 or 2 day holiday, but they're grinding already, Mike. You know they're grinding.
Yeah, Archie, United have 200 million for Ole, and they're saying that they spent half of that on Pogba. They're looking at who is it? They're trying to win the race to pay Rabiot £280,000 a week. Just because they have money doesn't mean they're going to spend it wisely. I think we've seen that.
Yeah.
Again, if we had 250 million to spend, I wouldn't be saying it at the beginning of the transfer window so that everybody can double the price of their players when you're going to buy them. Now everyone doubles the price of the players for United, and United pays it, and they're still sixth. So I don't know that that's necessary. I agree with what Andy just said, and whoever it was that I don't like said. That
he's also named Andy. Archie.
Okay. Yeah, I don't like him.
The concerning part with being linked with a right back when we need a center back is we are losing Lich, and I think that it would be kind of awesome to see Bellerin as a right back and move Ainsley into either that defensive midfield role or a right wing role and have that speed down the right. I think that would be tasty. So let's see what happens, but at the end of the day, we need a center back, like you said. So let's see.
Let's get on to this certain issue here from Roger Kendrick. How do we sell Mesut Ozil, and what will it take to pay him off? Could he go full time on Fortnite and still earn the same wages? According to my son, there are people that make millions of dollars. I guess what's the guy's name? Ninja. Some of these people make ridiculous money, not 350,000 quid a week, but that was the weakest bell ring I've ever done. It was like, so anyway, how do we sell him? Do you want to sell him? How do we sell him? Let's talk about this for the 9th consecutive week.
I think we just need to. I think we just need to buy him out. I think we need to buy him out.
Can we buy him out for anything other than 100%? Will he accept that? Does he need to play to the point where if we say you can go find somewhere else to play, we're gonna give you $100,000 a week. They can take care of the rest. He doesn't get the offer he wants, so he just says, no, I'll just keep taking $350 a week, and you can play me as much as you want. I'll just send shit through the social media to make you look bad. That cannot continue. But if you're Ozil and Ozil's camp, since he is, as you say, a brand, I think it's not even just about what are we willing to pay. It's about how can we finally just make him agree to leave.
Well,
hey, Bob, you want him? Pete, you want him?
I blocked those fuckers. I was getting sick of that shit.
I don't even know how to do that.
Oh yeah, those motherfuckers won't be coming back to this channel unless they'll probably just create new usernames. I don't know. Maybe we sell him to PSG. Maybe China come in. I don't know, Mike. I think the only way we do it is if we buy out his contract or we send him off to another country and we pay for some of that and we take $250 off of the wage bill, but we're still paying $100. Ozil's, for the most part, he is a professional, and I think if Unai sits down with him and says, "Hey, at the end of the day, you're not in my plans," I think he goes. I think he walks.
I don't know. I kind of have my doubts. I can see him in the it's almost like a reverse holdout, like in the NFL here, where you got people holding out and not playing because they don't have a bigger contract. They don't get paid when they're not playing, but they hurt their team. With him, I could just see him going on strike and getting paid and not playing. It's just, I think it's going to be impossible to get rid of him, and that, frankly, is one of the bigger things that I think holds us back from just moving to the next stage of personnel.
I do still think that maybe we move him to the Colorado Rapids and have them buy out the contract. City would do it. We should do it too.
Yeah, and I was wrong. They've done it with a number of players, just not on that scale. But Jack, what's his name, Harrison, a couple others, Frank Lampard. Yeah, that's what we need to do. So maybe we'll see him playing for the Rapids this summer instead of for Arsenal.
Sebi asks, okay, what do we do now since we don't have Champions League money and we supposedly only have £40 million for next season? On a scale of 1 to 10, how worried are you about our ability to strengthen the squad? Who would you sell? Cough, Ozil. Since we've already kind of discussed that, Mike, on a scale of 1 to 10, how worried are you about the ability to strengthen this squad?
If 10 is most worried about our ability to strengthen the squad, then 3. If 10 is about how worried I am that we will actually do everything that we can do to strengthen the squad, 9. Because, I'm not convinced yet that we have a ruthless personnel streak, and there's so much turnover that needs to happen this summer, and I just don't see us moving that strongly. But as for who I would sell, if we could get any kind of a reasonable offer from them, I would move on Ozil, I would move on Mkhitaryan, I would move on Mustafi, Koscielny, Elneny, Jenkinson, Ospina. I'd move on Takuma Asano, and I'm not even kidding. He's still under contract with us for another year. And there are a couple players who I would like to hold on to, but if someone, because they're have promise or potential, again, we talked about buying well and selling well. If someone gave us like above market offer, like every other team gets for their up and coming players, depending on the offer, I would consider saying goodbye to Chambers. I consider saying goodbye to Iwobi, Xhaka, Mavropanos.
So you're just going to sell the whole fucking team?
And Kolasinac. Well, I'm saying some people I would like to get rid of just about regardless of the cost. Others I would get rid of if someone gave us a deal that was too good to refuse. Then there are others. Lacazette is one of them, who's supposedly in Barcelona today. But Lacazette is one that, the offer could be 80 million and I still would not want to sell him. So, I'm not saying sell everybody to if the price is met, but I would say there's probably 12 to 13 people on this club that I would sell if the price was good enough.
I agree with Joe Millwad, who says 60% of the team need to go. At the end of the day, you can't just rid 60%. You need to do it in pieces. The Lacazette and Barcelona thing, I just don't get how they're going to be able to do that unless there are a group of players coming our way. Now, if they came to us and said, hey, you can have Dembele and Umtiti, and we'll take Lacazette, I would do that in a heartbeat. But Lacazette's young, and Aubameyang is on the other side at 30. And
maybe we could get Denis Suarez.
Yeah.
I hear he's good.
Yeah, I wish we could have seen Suarez play for us last year a little bit more than he did. But at the end of the day, Mike, I'm on a scale of 1 to 10. I'm a little worried. I think I'm a 2 or a 3. I think Chambers and Bilic in this current market with the English price tag would probably fetch us 30 to 40 million. So I'm wondering if we maybe give them a shot. What makes me worry even more is Nketiah and Willock.
Bielik?
Yeah, Nketiah and Willock could have both probably gone out on loan and been given more of an opportunity if we had more depth. So I wouldn't necessarily get rid of players like Elneny right now. I think that he is comfortable on a lower wage, kind of being a backup player. So there are certain players I think we should move quicker than others, just so we're doing it right. I don't think just removing half the squad right off the bat, but it's troublesome. It's totally troublesome.
I would be comfortable, like if Elneny, just from being a solid plug-in, nothing flashy. And by solid, I don't mean that he's a guy that plays at the 6 for a top 4 team. And if that's what we want to be, then he's not good enough. But he's a squad player on low wages, but so too would be Bielik, so too would be Chambers. And they're guys that we have already. So, if you can't play Elneny, Chambers, Bielik, and Torreira and Xhaka and Guendouzi, all in midfield, even with 2 games a week. So in that situation, it's kind of a lot of average to above average options, but nothing great other than maybe Torreira. So, I'd be perfectly happy to get rid of Elneny if he had market value. Frankly, some of the younger guys may have more market value because they have more potential upside than Elneny. So, we'll see. But
we're just in that weird lux of, do we try an Ajax where we invest in limited transfer market and put the youth in there and see what they can do?
Yeah, I mean, when I say
Or
Obi, I'm not saying I wouldn't, that I don't rate him, but I mean, if a mid-table club or an Everton or somebody's going to come along and give us 45 million for him, like a Richarlison or a Balassi type of sale price that we've seen over the last couple of years, you have to give that some serious thought and try to reinvest it because there's only so
and
many
I agree
years you
with,
can have that guy.
Matt Walker says Emery's not going to win with Wenger's players. He needs his team. I've been saying that forever. I completely agree with that. That's so true.
And
it's so true.
If we turned over the team like I would like to see happen this year, frankly, I would that would buy me another year with Emery. I hate to keep resetting the clock and saying, okay, well, this year is the transition year. No, this year is the transition year. I said that about this year, but if we actually turn over the team hugely, again, I don't want to backslide, but I would look at next year as an opportunity to see if he can instill his mentality on the club, and you'll see that one way or the other. I said I would judge the team on how they played, not how they finished. And early in the year, I was very impressed with what I saw. Towards the end of the year, I wasn't, and that's an alarming trend.
Yeah.
So, from Tez in Australia, a huge Sydney FC supporter, but apparently also an Arsenal guy.
Let's go Brisbane Roar.
What did you say?
I said, let's go Brisbane Roar.
Oh, yeah. Haven't asked a question for a while as I'm hardly on Twitter. Where does this current Arsenal squad sit amongst others in the last 10 years, Andy?
It's a good question. It's a tough one because, we won cups with Denilson, Bentner. We made deep Champions League runs with those players in. I think it sits exactly where it sits. 5th place. If you look at
I think you're saying compared to our clubs.
Yeah, no, I think it sits where it is, 5th place. It's hard to compare year after year. I mean, because this isn't Emery's team. So until he gets his squad, you can't really – this is still Arsenal's team. He had this team built around a specific style, and we never saw that style this season. So it's really hard to answer that. I mean, what do you think?
I think talent-wise, the level of talent that we have on our club has gotten better with each consecutive year, with the possible exception of maybe 2 seasons ago when we had peak Alexis playing. It is definitely the most underachievingest team in the last 10 years, unless you look at that squad, the first one where we finally missed out on the top 4. We had Alexis, we had Chambo, we had Vic Akers still at that point. It was just, other than that, I mean, you've seen, and these are usually League Cup early round matchups, but you see every once in a while a tweet with the starting 11 that we put out on the pitch like 7-8 years ago, and the names you see on there: Giroud, not Giroud, but Johan Giroud, Ignel Mikasi or Miguel Ignacio. What I say, Ignel Mikasi. Gervinho and Chamak and all those guys, and we won things with those guys. We got 4th place and we won FA Cups, and it's just so. And you could take that information and say, well, what's the difference? Who was coaching them then versus who's coaching them now? But I'm not going to chalk it up to that. I just think we've got underachieving, mentality-ridden, devoid people right now on the club, and so it's underachieving.
You don't just look at our club either. I mean, you got to look at what's happening around as well. The investment from Liverpool. I mean, Klopp took 8th his first year at Liverpool, and look at the investment. And I think I briefly did a quick scan, Mike. Out of the team that Klopp took over, there's only 8 remaining players from that 26-man squad from the first day he took over to now. 8 remaining players, and out of that 8, only really 4 of them start week in and week out, and that's Jordan Henderson. It was for Firmino and I think Joe Gomez, and then there was one other player in there. So he had time and the ability to completely revamp that team. We have to have patience. That's the biggest thing here, is you have to have patience. So it's hard to rank this team, but look at this summer, Mike. Chelsea are fucked. They can't buy anyone. They're about to lose their manager. They're probably going to bring in Lampard. So you look at them and you're like, okay, you finished 3rd. Yeah, they finished 3rd. So remove them. United are a clusterfuck. So there are other things that are outside of our control that might help us in favor. But all stems back to getting this team to be Emery's team.
Yeah, if we just stay status quo and tread water, and this team is still 80% of the same personnel next season as it was this season, then all these other teams that we keep thinking are going to drop because of their inconsistencies and their, loss of Hazard and Sarri and all that, we're just going to be dropping along with them. We're just going to be treading water while they keep reloading. It's going to be a repeat of this season.
Dude, I'll tell you this for nothing, man. If tomorrow morning I woke up and there was a Twitter feed news of Arsenal signed Gary Cahill for £0 in the transfer window, and what's the central midfielder from PSG's name? Rabiot. We get those two players. There are worse players out there than Gary Cahill. We'd pay a lot more money for, and I think
but we'll give them like $200,000 a week, because that's all of our last free transfers. Lichtsteiner, Kolasinac. I mean, we gave them contracts that were just silly.
At the end of the day, though, Mike, he is a player that would improve our defense to what it is today, and we get him for free. So I'm talking, if we truly only have $40 million, there's two players right there, and we're freeing up a wage bill. I think the big thing is you would say to a player like Gary Cahill, hey, you're going to come in with a higher appearance fee. I think the central midfielder from PSG, there could be some legs to that rumor, because he knows Emery and Emery knows him. Now, whether or not he actually comes, but there are ways we could add to this squad and improve the squad without spending much money.
Yeah.
And Archie, I get Cahill, no thanks. We already have a finished Koscielny. But think about
I kind of agree with him on that, actually.
But think about the rotation. Koscielny might leave the club this summer, and we just need leadership. We don't have leadership. Cahill wore that captain's armband for a really long time. So we just need someone. Great question from Joe. Rather play Mustafi than Cahill?
I don't think that was a question. I think that was the statement.
Yeah, but that's my question to you. Who do you rather play? If you have to pick the last defender and you've got two, Mustafi and Cahill,
I'd rather just leave. I'd just rather play two.
Mustafi, don't you do it? Hey, speaking of English, look, my women's England kit showed up.
What'd you say, your women's England kit?
Yeah, this is specific to the women for this World Cup.
It looks fantastic on your tits.
Thank you.
By the way, Grant asked if the letters on my third kit from last year came off, and yeah, they did. And they this particular kit, they all come off. A few of them came off, and then I just basically pulled the rest of them off, because I think it looks better just like this than half-ass peeling bullshit. So, but yeah, it's not going to be good unless we. I mean, I'm still a fan of Nathan Ake. That's who I would like to see us go after. And there was a bit of discussion in the chat. Just raid the English clubs, raid Bournemouth, raid Burnley, raid everybody. Just I would be fine if we only bought players in the Premier League this season from mid-table clubs and brought them to our club for next season and let them bloom. I would be fine with that. So, but we've talked about that before. So, next question is
Joe Zalek. I still rock my BFG Nike kit. What player should I get on a new kit, or should I wait until? Should I wait it out on my player kit? What?
Should he get a new kit with a player's name, or should he wait it out before getting a player on it?
Oh, okay. And then should I be?
This is one of Sebi's boys. So if you can't, if you don't know what he means, that's why.
Yeah, fucking speak English, Joe. Also, should I be a jerk and wear a New York City FC kit to meet you guys in DC this summer?
Yeah, I don't know. Should I be a jerk when you show up in that kit and I go in for a big hug and accidentally elbow you in the jaw, and then Sebi gets to clean up the blood? So, no. Yeah, don't wear the NYC FC kit. I think that's doubly douchey if you do that. And I know you were just kidding, but. As for players on shirts, I'm currently in May mode, which means I'm swearing never to get another name on the back of my shirt again. But what it also means is in 2 months, I'll be back in July mode, which means I'm running out and ordering online a shirt with the name of our big summer signing on it, like some chump. So be prepared for my new Adidas Bramble shirt and my Cahill shirt. So yeah. I would advise you not to get a player in the back, because he's just going to turn out to be a pussy.
am stopping player on the back because there's no commitment in football anymore. And I feel like every time I buy a shirt with a player on the back, they leave the club. So I brought up a question a while ago, can you get a legend on the back? And I was at the pub, and a guy had like last year's home kit with Henri 14 on the back, and my instant thought was, not cool, bro. So the answer to that is no.
Yeah, well, I loved it. Was it on Twitter or was it on Facebook that I saw that? And I think it was on Facebook. And a couple of us were like, it's like, that's kind of ridiculous. I don't like that. And then there's the, don't tell people they can and can't have. I'm just like, I'm not telling someone they can't do that. I'm just telling them they can't be my friend if they do that.
Yeah, I'm just telling them I'll never look them in the eye.
From Fredo, how do you improve the amount of goals and assists coming from everyone not named Aubameyang and Lacazette, something that we here call secondary scoring? And when you answer that, he's got a backup question.
I think the style of play, so we saw it a lot on Wednesday, but the entire season has been get the balls out to the wings and cross in. We never really saw stuff come down the middle unless Ramsey was playing, and that's such a big hole to fill. So I think, Mike, for us to get other players involved, we need to bring the ball down the middle, and we just haven't done that. Even with Ozil on the pitch, we don't see it enough. So I think it's just the structure of the play and the problem when you have two world-class strikers on the pitch is you want to get them the ball, and they're going to be putting it in the back of the net. So it's just I don't think we're going to keep both of them this summer. I really don't. Everyone says, oh,
Really?
no Champions League football, you can't attract the good players. My mind is thinking, no Champions League football, how do we keep the good players? And if Lacazette Barcelona situation is true and his best friend just went there, then we pretty much fucked. Now, to ask you this question, Mike, and you can give me a quick yes or no.
Who's his best friend? Griezmann?
Yeah.
How could Griezmann be his best friend?
I don't know. They're French.
Yeah, but
how can anyone be friends with a French person? Sorry, Debbie.
I don't know. They probably named their mom, their dad, and their son Bernard or something like that. And
here's a genuine
Sebby did
question,
name
though.
his dad.
Like I jokingly said it before, but if Barcelona came in and offered 80 million for Lacazette or said we're going to give you cash plus Dembele, do you take it?
Dembele kind of seems like,
and then people in the
like
chat,
a younger version of. I don't mean style of play, but career trajectory wise, he strikes me as somebody like Mkhitaryan, who moved to a big club, and it just, now I know injuries played into this, but it just hasn't worked out. And I don't know, some people can snap back from that. Mo Salah snapped back. De Bruyne snapped back. Di Maria, I think, snapped back to an extent, but others can't. Mkhitaryan hasn't, and Dembele isn't the player he was in that amazing year that he had at Dortmund. And I don't know that he should be everyone that we pin our hopes and dreams on, and he's nowhere near the player that Lacazette is. So, I don't think I take that. I mean, if they want to offer us Dembele for Iwobi, then I'll take it.
Yeah.
Dembele plus cash for Iwobi and Elneny. I mean, then Elneny has scored against Barcelona, so yeah. I don't know. I don't really get the whole Dembele thing. No question, he had an outstanding year at Dortmund, but. Also from Fredo, Andy, any planned vengeance for the Pineapple Avalanche this season?
Oh yeah.
We're gonna get you two together for the first time. It's gonna be like when Tom Canton and Drew met, and I got to witness their tearful, loving embrace for the first time.
Do you have his home address? I somehow need to get his home address.
I'll work on it. Yeah. And now I may never. He'll double. Yeah, you shouldn't have brought that up, because he'll double down on it, and he'll give a home address that's someone else that he hates, and he'll get you and somebody else giving each other shit, and he'll just be standing there laughing at you the rest of his life.
We'll get
eating pineapples. All right,
we'll get it.
What
part of Texas do you live in? San Antonio.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go there
You can
because
see the planning.
that place is boring.
You got Carrie's question?
No.
You don't?
Yeah, no. What are the 3 must-happen moves this summer from Kerry McCollum? Also in the chat. Mike.
Must happen. Mustafi must leave. Ozil must leave. And some twat from Milton Keynes must get more donations so he can afford to drive drunk more often. Andy, what do you think?
Or get more donations because he can't afford to pay for his season ticket.
Yeah.
3 must happen. Yeah, I think we need to get Ozil and Mkhitaryan off the wage bill. I'm going to lump that in as 1. I think that we need to invest in depth, and I think we need to give some of these youngsters loans.
Yeah, I mean, and everyone says Nketiah probably should have gone on loan and really suffered from not going on loan, but it was Danny Welbeck's injury that really, pinned us back from being able to do that. So I do think these guys. Now, what do you think about the guys that had loans this season? Reece Nelson, Smith Rowe.
As much as we joke about dossier twins, Drew is a very, very intellectual individual when it comes to football. And if he's saying that Reece Nelson is not ready and that he had a very hot second, but another loan spell is what he needs. I don't follow the Bundesliga that much outside of, knowing the league table and what teams doing what. But if someone who religiously follows it is saying that that's the case, then that's the case. He's likely not ready. So give him another loan. But if we are going to allow him to sit in our squad, we need to utilize him in more than just Carabao Cup games.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Drew watched every Hoffenheim game twice this season. And so if he says Reece Nelson was getting a little too, I mean, I think people are starting to talk about him like he was 2017 Serge Gnabry or something like that, where he was just like a surefire future stud. And, I think the reality of the situation is he's showing some signs of being really good. But then again, so did Jeff Ryan Adelaide in his first couple of years with us. And I'm not quite sure what happened to him. I'm sure Danny could tell us. But yeah, I mean, we've got a lot of decisions to make. And if we don't start either playing some of these guys on a more regular basis and just letting them blood themselves in, or putting them on loan, we're going to end up losing some of them on freeze, like some of our other youth players, like Plug-Wizego and stuff that are leaving without ever really making an impact.
So the Lacazette in Barcelona rumors, Mike, that have happened today, people are saying they're seeing him there.
Right.
There's pictorial evidence of this happening, but he's wearing Arsenal stuff. Now, how does that make sense? Like, if you're an Arsenal player,
I'm sure it's not Ty from Arsenal.
If you're an Arsenal player who's about to go sign for another club in that city and you're wearing something Arsenal related, that doesn't make sense. Why would he do that?
Yeah. First of all, look at me. I'm here in Barcelona. Secondly, I'm repping Arsenal big time while I try to get the maximum salary out of Barcelona. Yeah. Doesn't make a tremendous amount of sense. From Alonso Spencer, I believe he asked for his name to be said in an English accent, but by you, not by me. Wow. From Alonso, if we get Ryan Fraser and are able to get rid of Ozil, which one player on the squad now, currently on the squad, would replace Ozil at the 10? Would it be Iwobi? Andy?
Oh, that's a good question.
No, I wasn't shooting it over to you. I was answering the question. I'd use Andy.
Oh, yeah, I'll do it. So done. All right. Tom Rosen.
No, who would you use?
Do
you think Iwobi's ready to be our first choice kind of playmaker?
No.
If we want to use that word?
No. I think Ramsey.
His decision making in the final third when he's been playing well is not one that gives me a lot of faith that he's going to be,
And that's exactly why, Mike. His final ball and his decision making has a lot to be desired. He's improved a lot, and
he's amazing about 40, 45 yards from goal. I mean, the number of people he gets past that you just don't think he's got a chance of getting past.
I'm going to go with
using both power and finesse. It's really incredible. But
here's my answer to the question: is nobody. And we haven't fussed about using a number 10 all season. We haven't used one. if we have one of the best in the world when he's on his game, but we haven't used it. So I don't know that we need to use it, Mike. I mean, there are certain lineups where maybe we go into a diamond formation in the middle where you have it, and Iwobi could slot in. I don't think we'll lose Ozil and Mkhitaryan in the same window, but if either of those two are there, this situation Ozil's not, so probably Mkhitaryan goes into it. But I just don't see the reason why we need to use it.
Yeah, I would personally use Dejan Iliev or Gunnersaurus to do it, but yeah, I mean we've gone from having all these people whose natural position is in the middle to the point where we haven't been able to accommodate them. So we have central mid players playing wide. We have Ozil on the wing. We've had years where other centrally based players played on the wing, and now all of a sudden we're about to have a huge. I mean, we're not getting rid of Ozil. Ozil's going to be here next season, so it's kind of a theoretical conversation. But if we were to, all of a sudden we'd have this big void there. Someone in the chat said Draxler, but the question was, do we have someone currently on the team? Is Smith Rowe potentially that person in the future? Yeah, but not for next season.
Smith Rowe seems to be the ideal fit with the scenario of Ozil and Mkhitaryan not being there. I just can't see how it's Iwobi. Mr. Rosenhammer asks the question, it seems like under Arsene, we like to buy defenders that played nice football first and defend second. Do you think on the Emery we can expect more traditionally oriented defenders? I think the answer to that is yes. Mike?
Matt says Andy's natural position is in the middle too. In the middle of two big fat men.
Wobbly H.
I sure fucking hope so. I mean, we've had our time with flair defenders. You clearly don't win the Premier League that way anymore. Maybe years ago, but I mean, even when we were storming through the Premier League and winning, however many, in 5 years, I think we won 3 to 4 times. I mean, I'm just not even thinking about it right now, but I mean, the back four that we had, the players that we had at that time. And you need bastards, you need dicks. Like I've said, I mean, Sergio Ramos, Godin, Van Dijk, Company when he wasn't in the hospital. I mean, these guys couldn't care less about dancing and sticking their ass out like Mustafi and juggling and doing fancy footwork and close control and shit. All they care about is that you are not fucking getting past them. You're not getting around them. And so, yeah, I mean, I hope we worry less about the footwork with the ball and worry a little bit more about their footwork and their their mental work without the ball.
I remember Ian Wright was saying how there were certain defenders that would put a knee in your ass or your lower back if you got close to them early in the game to dictate the pace, just to let you know, like, hey, come close to me. We have a situation. And Wrighty said it would throw him off his game. Like, you would have to change the way you dictated play around that player because you knew they were going to hit you, and that's what we want, and that's what we need, and that is that traditional center back. So, as Joe said, nasty bastards is what we need.
Yeah, and we need leaders back there. I mean, we need whether Koscielny was not this person. Socrates could possibly be this person, but I'm just not sure that he's got that presence. But I go back to what Lee Dixon said in when I was in that the Arsenal Trust meeting that got taken way out of context. It was turned into a slam on Arsene Wenger, but he said Ashley Cole didn't become Ashley Cole because of Arsene Wenger and his coaching. He said he became the best left back in the world because of Tony Adams. And God damn it, I mean, Tony Adams isn't walking through that door anytime soon. But we need someone with a little Tony Adams in him. Hopefully, just from a mental standpoint, not physically, but yeah, I mean, it's that I don't know who that person's going to be, but we have to find him because we don't have anybody even remotely like that on the club.
No, we don't.
From Gooner Dub, a.k.a. Johan, the man you love to call Johan, even though his name's John.
Johan?
Why do people think next year Emery will change his attitude and trust youngsters? We've just talked about a bunch of them. For me this year, Willock Nketiah lost a year of development. You pretty much said that. Saka wasn't even allowed near a bench past January. But a lot of people are thinking we go with a really young club next year. I guess that's kind of the fallback position if we aren't really spending any money on transfers.
Yeah, I think he changes his attitude because he has to. He has to trust some of the youngsters. I think we saw the brief time of Willock. He's been impressive. I keep hearing a lot about soccer from the people who really follow the under 23s that he is kind of the real deal. So that's pretty exciting. And Ketia, I just don't see. He lost a year of development, but he needs to be loaned out to a smaller club. I don't think he's going to be the goal scoring machine everyone thinks, but I think we're going to have to change. He's going to have to change his attitude because he doesn't have a choice. For us to have depth, we need to have these youngsters step up.
Yeah. Did you see our nice comment from Trigger Happy J? Do you want to read that?
How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? Trigger Happy J has taken
Keep going.
Oh, sorry. How art thou cut down to the ground while dis the weaken the nations? He had one of these earlier. I think Trigger Happy J has put some ganja in a pipe and smoked it. Good for you, brother. It's Friday.
I think he's just called us both the devil, and that's the nicest thing anyone's ever said to us. Actually,
it really is.
Oh boy!
Turn the fucking phone off, Mike. Shit.
Your phone went off earlier.
My phone's not even in the same room as me.
Your mom's in the same room as me. All right, we got two more questions. Oh my God, there's an even better one out now.
And Andrew the Hinkley Gooner. Both Emery and Czech have both spoken of the lack of pressure to succeed within the club. I think this is a massive problem for our club culture and has been our downfall. What do you think needs to be done to correct this and forge cultural change? And who's responsible for it? This is a good fucking question.
It is great. Andrew's been stepping up lately with outstanding participation, by the way. It's 100% Emery's job, or whoever the manager ends up being, to make that happen. And frankly, it might be something that he ends up having to fall on the sword to change. And that's the reason you may never see it, because it doesn't do anybody any good to change the mentality for the next person. But, if there's a lack of ambition in our backroom decision-making on transfers and contracts and coaches, then the coach has to speak out about it, demand support from his hierarchy, and also from below him, from the players that he has. And we never saw this from Arsene Wenger, ever. We're really only now this summer, with the end of the season, reaching the first crossroads under Emery, where we'll see if he has this in him as well. And frankly, I tend to doubt it. The one other person who needs to massively weigh in on this and be the source of changing the culture is the person I know you're going to say, and that's Josh Kroenke.
No, I wouldn't have said that.
Really?
No.
Because there's the board, there's the ownership, there's leadership and players, and there's the manager, and then there's the kit man, and those are really the only people that could possibly be part of it. So, I think it falls on Emery completely to demand that from both above and below him. Talking about being in the middle of things.
Yeah, and as I said before, like the pressure Emery was talking about at PSG and the pressure here is completely different because they have one goal in mind. They already know they're going to walk the league, so they want their focus on Champions League. I think Czech was talking more about the reign under Arsene, and unfortunately we have a lot of players that are young who are molded under that type of hey, we don't need to succeed. There's no pressure. Look at Iwobi. He's 22. His first team debut was 17 or 18. So for 4 or 5 years under Arsene, he was coddled. And I don't care how old you are. If you're a professional football player, you should be getting shit every week, and you should be challenged every week to be better. So it falls solely on Emery. Emery's first thing, how to correct it, and we were having this chat earlier, captain. He needs to elect 2 or 3 members of this team that are going to, we've said it in the past, put their teammates on check when they fuck up, and allow the team to hold each other accountable.
Was it a mistake for him to name 5 people this season? He really stuck with that for the whole season, too. He pretty much rotated until Koscielny came back.
Yeah, I don't think so, Mike. I think it's his first year in. You're not really sure who the leaders of the team are going to be. I think, for example, like an Ozil isn't going to be a screaming type of player. He'll be more of a Burkamp. Let me show you in training how it's done and all that. It's probably a terrible example, but I don't think he knew. I think he now knows who can be that leader going in. Dude, look at the fucking passion that we saw from number 11 in the last 72 hours of this life. The fucking breakdown on the pitch to the message that he sent out today. So I think that's going to be it. It's a huge culture shift. But honestly, as I said before, Edu coming in is going to be a big proponent of that. He's going to be driving that quite a bit because he's essentially going to be Unai's boss.
Yeah. Interesting from Grant. I'm going to throw this in here before we get to the final question. Do you think there's some connection or correlation? And he says this is legit, he's not kidding, between the club's weak mentality in crunch time and the fact that the club has ostensibly French DNA throughout. I'm going to, Grant, send that on Twitter to @SEBBYV21 and see what answer you get from our boy Sevi there. But I'm not getting into to attacking the French here. They don't need me to do that. They get that plenty on their own. But what do you think, Andy?
About the French? Oh, yeah.
You don't pull punches when it comes to that.
No. Jokes aside, Mike, there's a big culture issue at stake. But here's the thing, right? So if Emery comes in his first year and the first couple sessions and training, do you want to have a manager who throws players under the bus like Jose? Or do you want to have a manager like Pep Guardiola where he's the player manager, they see him, they respect him, they love him, all the people surrounding him are the rabid dogs who are causing the players to get bitten and create that untenable culture where people are like, hold on a second, I'm not used to this. You got to remember, you're dealing with teenagers who have been coddled for 4 or 5 years. You just can't come in overnight and change it. I think the fact that Emery coming out in the press conference and saying that there is a cultural issue is huge. He's acknowledging that. Now it's how he deals with it, how he changes it. And I think that he has to be careful. You just can't come in and throw a player like Ozil under the bus right away. And then when he did, everyone got fucking furious. Oh, this manager's an asshole, blah, blah, blah. Well, he can't fucking win. He literally cannot win.
Yeah. Yep. So we got our last question of the season.
The last question of the season.
I gave this last question honor to this gentleman for a reason.
He signed off hours ago when we were swearing.
No, it's yeah, exactly. It's from Mike Hernandez. I'm gonna go ahead and give Mike the unofficial User of the Year award because dude is always in the chat. If he's not going to be in the chat, he actually sends me a text letting me know that he's sorry, but he'll listen to it on the way to work tomorrow, which is what he did today. Great guy to talk to. We met him in New Orleans. I met him in New Orleans. I'm actually going to give his wife the award because she puts up with him and with us in their home every week. So anyway, his question. Hey, 312. I must have missed it somewhere. Then send it back to me again. I will read it. Do you guys believe that the board disclosed the transfer / contract issues and potential limitations to Unai prior to him accepting the job?
I think, yeah. I think that he probably, if he really went through and did a dossier of each player, he probably understood the the contracts they were on, and then he understands how financial fair play works. So my guess is that he was given a lot of this information. I think he was probably told, like, hey, we are going to look for you to rebuild on limited funds. Can you do that? I think Arteta was probably the number one choice up until Unai threw his hat in the ring. And the reason why Arteta would have been good was because he would have understood that as well. He's young, so he would have probably thought to himself, hey, I'm going to use my experience and exposure to show that this can be done. And then Unai swoops in. You have a guy who's won 3 Europa Leagues. You have a guy who actively left PSG to come to us. So, yeah, I think he knew all of the information, Mike. He's a smart guy, and I don't think anything would have been brushed under the rug with him. I think he would have known immediately what he got himself into. And why would the board lie? It's a small world in certain businesses, and if Unai was lied to, came to Arsenal and sold a bill of goods that weren't there, he would reach out to the next manager and be like, don't do it. So there's no point to lie. There just isn't. And I think the Kroenkes were probably honest with him too. Here's what you're going to get. Deal with it.
Yeah, I think he was probably told, this isn't PSG. This isn't, this is going to be more like your Sevilla job, which, people will be paying to hear that. But, Sevilla or Valencia or both. I always forget. I always get them mixed up. But feeder league team. Jesus Christ.
God damn it.
So, yeah, I mean, I think they were told he was told that. I think that has a lot to do with why they chose him, because I think he was willing to work within those constraints. That being said, at some point he's going to be under pressure to win, and he's going to need to speak up for himself and get the support that he needs. That's about it on questions. I got about 5 minutes to spend on kind of wrapping up the season from my perspective. If you could stick around, Andy.
Yeah.
I'll skip the part about you then, because
well, we should probably do that, or mute your Hernandez, mute your radio now.
No. Unless something dramatic happens in the transfer window, I'm assuming this is going to be probably our last full pod that we put out until I'm in your home in Denver in 6 weeks, right before the Arsenal summer tour.
To say, not until the. I don't know, Mike.
We'll see. I mean, if something comes up,
to do it. If
it just depends on how much donations we get.
Like I told you last night, I'm not gonna say he's not a player, but I'm not gonna say he's not a player.
Oh well, that one will do. If we're gonna do that one will do, Daddy. So yeah, it just depends on how many donations we get. But I wanted to say first, when you texted me in August 2016, like we had just met 2 weeks earlier, and you're like, I want to do this Arsenal podcast.
I think we met longer than that. It was just more of a not physical met. We were banter online for quite a time. Because maybe. I like what you're saying.
But you're like, I want to do this Arsenal podcast, and I think you'd be a good co-host for it. And I think I told you it would be a ridiculous idea. Then I said, all right, I'll do it as long as you write the whole thing every week and just come to me for my opinions, and I'll just act like a jackass. I mean, 3 weeks later, I'm obsessing over it 10 hours a week trying to make sure that I'm prepared. But, the point is I was honored that you thought I'd be good for it. I didn't think anyone would ever listen to us. But, I'm up for giving anything a try other than receiving anal from Ola. But, we did some ridiculously laughable shows early on, but it was fun. We listened to good advice. So we kind of pulled back on the guests so we could build up a little chemistry and kind of grew from there. So, now that we're done with 3 seasons, I can honestly tell you it's the most fun I've had doing anything anywhere in my life currently, period. And, it's a great mix with my fandom of Arsenal because it keeps me laughing, keeps me grounded, sane from an Arsenal perspective. And, I had no vision of the people that we would meet and become friends with and be able to talk to. It just never saw it coming. So I don't know, getting back to the whole money thing, I don't know if we do this for another 10 years, if we get to the point where, it starts generating some money from somebody other than, our listeners having to just pay money to listen to us, other than just covering our expenses. I can't promise that'll never be the case, but the last reason that you and I do this, and the last reason anybody should do this, is for the money. Any money we've ever asked for anybody has been for charitable donations to the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, and we hope that will continue. And if we can use exposure to do good for people that way, then this hobby of ours will make the world a better place. At the same time that all of our dick jokes and stupidity make the world a grosser place. So, I just wanted to thank you for bringing me along on this ride, and I'm looking forward to next summer. Now it's your turn. Go.
Well, now we're being super gay.
Not that there's anything wrong with that. No, you don't have to say anything. I just wanted to get that out there before we go on break. This has been
podcast husband and wife here. This season was fun, Mike. It was different than last year because last year there was a lot of frustration before we potted. I mean, you know that I hated doing it because it was just like rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. But you put up with a lot of my shit, and I appreciate that. And I want to thank you because you are always time zone wise later or earlier than me, and you work through what I have as lunch and you have as your work day, and I appreciate it. And we've got some really exciting stuff on the horizon with this summer, and we potentially might be able to ask Stan Kroenke the questions that people want.
That literally might happen, but David Ziegler just shut up and said, "This sounds like Mike wrote his own vows." I kind of felt like that when I was jotting down my notes, but
hey, David, don't go back and listen to any of this podcast. Thanks a lot, buddy.
there's two other entities that I want to, other than the entity of Andy Rhodes.
Mike, it's been a lot of fun, and I'm super excited for season 4. I think that we've got some fun stuff on the horizon. As always, I wouldn't have done this with anyone else. We are yin and yang, I think, for this, with our personalities and how we. You do one part and I do the other, and the amount of work you put in outside of this is just unparalleled. You book people. He even tried to get Jamie Foxx people. He literally tried to get Jamie Foxx.
I've tried to get. Here's who I haven't been able to get. Like, I was politely declined for Jamie Foxx. Who's the guy that wrote Fever Pitch? Nick Hornby. And there was one other person. And then by the same token, when I fully expected to be turned down, you end up with John Burkow and Alan Smith and all this. And that's what I wanted to get to next. The guests this season have been outstanding. One of the things that I think we did stumble into that makes us a little different than a lot of the other podcasts is we try to bring on like a hugely wide variety of guests so that, we make the show as much about the guests as it is about Arsenal. And
listen, like, to the guests, the people who listen to us every week, thank you. If you guys want to come on, the only issue Mike and I have is we've done it in the past where we've brought people on and they have been terrible. But if you're, hey, I want
terrible people.
No, not terrible people. There's terrible guests. Like, so if you want to come on, like, reach out to us. We're not going to say no. It's all about.
Andy invites 10 people on the podcast every week on Twitter, and then I have to I have to figure out how to not make him look like an asshole. But I mean, the guests. If you haven't been listening the whole season, we've had a variety of people on. Go back and check out our channel. But I mean, we've had Arsenal players and legends like Alan Smith, who joined us twice this season. Kevin Campbell. We've had well-known TV and print folks like Gab Marcotti, Leif Youssef. ESPN's Matthias Karen, Harry Pratt, Phil Shane, Arsblog, Gunnerblog, the well-known Tom Canton from theaterleague.com. We did try to get Kevin Campbell on once and failed, and then we got him on another time. But he is our mate, actually, and I'm not bragging.
I think he was on every time we asked.
Yeah. Oh, the guy's the fantastic. We had the friggin' Speaker of the House of Commons, John Burkow, on earlier this season. That was a trip. And then, some of the best shows, the most enjoyable ones, are the ones where we just have our mates and other podcasters and people that we've met through the podcast on, like Chig and Craig and Judges, Danny, Jay, Schoonerholic, Gav, Jeff Arsenal, John Welsh, Ola, Harry Simeow, Sean Swaby from Bleacher Report, the Dossier brothers, Drew and Canton, Fredo, Ziggy, Sebi, Brandon, your toffee cousin Sam, Lewis, Nate, Jerby. We had the football gerbil on almost every podcast this season without you knowing it. Justin, and of course, Joey Murphy. So thank you to the guests who come on with us and make it fun. And we got some very interesting names and people that we're going to chat to next season. And last, but most importantly, huge thanks to the people that Tom Canton likes to call fans, but we call users. We don't have multiple thousands of users. We don't have tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people watching and listening every week like some channels do. But we have more than we ever expected to have. We have quality, not quantity, when it comes to the people who watch. And I've become good friends, like I was saying about Mike, in person, online, with so many of the people that that are in this room right now in the chat. We couldn't and wouldn't be doing it if it wasn't for you guys and girls that listen. So, if the way to get to 10,000 subscribers and listeners is to suckle off a media giant, be negative and confrontational, and attract like 80% of your followers from the Generation Z YouTube generation, then count us out from that, man. we're not here for that. But our users are just, as a whole, the wittiest, the funniest, most amusing, quality people, Arsenal-wise, of any content provider out there. So we just thank you for listening, interacting, joining us in chats when you can, sending in user questions. We try to read every single
Signing
one.
us up for mailing lists on just church and Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints bullshit and places to visit in the United States. Thank you for signing us up for those. That's really appreciated.
Yeah, and it's just fun. So thank you for that. I'm gonna go cry now and look forward to the next season. But folks, it's been fun, Andy. I will talk to you shortly. The
moment you hang up this pod.
Yeah, Dave, we're not going to rebrand as AFTV USA anytime soon. And Fly, I'll give you a website where you can give us the 200 quid donations, baby. Thank you. So with that, we're gonna pretend we're gonna sign off and just move our computers up and then talk about you guys in the completely opposite way. But no, seriously, for one last time this season, come on, you Gooners.